Why is the absolute player pool so much more toxic than any other difficulty? While I prefer to play the max difficulty absolute, I have to say the player pool is so awful, it's got me going back to lethal. That is definitely surprising. To me, at least recently, I was kicked actually like a week ago in a game where I was playing sniper. I had a gene seed. I had two players on my team who both had guardian relics, but they were low health. When I went to pick up a stim pack because I had the gene seed, I was pretty healthy. I was healthier than they were. However, they had guardian relics. So I thought they would recognize the fact that, hey, we have something stronger than a stim pack. Surely the person with the gene seed can pick up a stim. Well, unfortunately, when I pick up the stim, I was kicked. I was going to make a video about it, but like honestly, I just kind of moved on. I thought it was really silly. I definitely thought it was pretty unnecessary at the very least. At the very least. However, that difficulty was substantial. Yes, I had two players on my teammate. I had two players on my team with guardian relics, and I was kicked for picking up a stim. Insane. With the gene seed, by the way. So it's not like I picked up the stim for no reason. I wanted to pick up the stim because obviously I have a very important item I need to get to the finish line with. Now, I didn't really catch wind that these people were going to kick me for this, to be completely honest. But yeah, as soon as I picked up the stim pack, not to mention, as soon as I picked up a stim pack, there was another stim that spawned at a crate where I was kicked. So that was pretty frustrating. Anyway, I say all of that to point out, I don't see that really happening in Absolute as far as getting kicked for something dumb. To be completely honest. Yeah, I just don't see people getting kicked in Absolute for stuff like that. I do, however, see people getting kicked in Absolute for not having a team perk, for being underleveled sometimes. It's mostly the team perk thing, because I will notice people level 9, level 11, level 15, whatever. Prestige 3, Prestige 2, they'll have a team perk, they'll have like the lowest team perk, but they still perform well. So to me, it's really not about the level as much for Absolute anymore. For hard siege mode, different story. But for Absolute, if you're like level 9, Prestige 3, you can probably hold your own. In fact, yeah, just having Prestige perks really help out a lot regardless. So, now I say that to kind of point out that if you're receiving Toxicity in Absolute, perhaps you could be doing something wrong. However, the way this person makes it sound like these are different situations. I mean, it sounds like he's been in toxic situations maybe like here and there over the course of a week. I don't know. That's how I catch wind of this post. Because why is the Absolute player pool so much more toxic than any other difficulty? Like, he's seriously he's saying he's playing with enough Absolute players to say this, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, let's finish the post. Levers. People killing their own teammates with explosive barrels. Okay, first of all, I don't think you can kill your own teammates with explosive barrels. I think if you hit an explosive barrel and you hit a teammate, they just don't take damage, right? I'm pretty sure the only way you can do this is with like the Melta, and if the teammate shoots the Melta. So for example, if you drop a Melta and like a plasma heavy hits it, and then for whatever reason the plasma heavy was also near it, that would put down the heavy. Constant mouthing off over comms. Holy cow, this person has people talking in comms. People that won't res you, even when they're cleared to, and randomly being kicked mid-match. Okay, so yeah, I was kind of right that this person definitely seen a few situations over the course of like a week. Levers, I mean, I wouldn't really put that as an absolute difficulty-centered thing. Killing their own teammates with explosive barrels, again, would like more details on that, but I don't think that's an absolute centered thing either. Constant mouthing off over comms. Now, this, depending on what they're mouthing off over, this potentially could be an absolute situation if they like don't like your team perk or whatever. But again, for the most part, people are willing to run it. They're willing to try at the very least. So I genuinely think this player has seen some bad luck when it comes to, you know, matchmaking and playing with players who are toxic. This is not my situation for absolute. In fact, when it comes to toxicity, I've seen it in lower difficulties more, I guess, as far as like getting kicked for no reason. And the reason for that is because in lower difficulties there are players who aren't as knowledgeable as the game, or at the game, as absolute players. So yeah, sometimes they will kick somebody for picking up a stim when they have a guardian relic and not really realizing the person picking up the stim needs it for the gene seed. Yeah, sometimes that happens. I don't see that happening in Absolute, to be completely honest. However, we have seen people get kicked for picking up the gene seed before, so I don't know. Maybe you can definitely have a bad string of teammates. It happens once in a blue moon on lethal, but constantly on absolute. I play muted, by the way. We'll turn it on if shot calling is happening. I'm level 25 Prestige 4 on all classes, so no build issues on max difficulty. Yeah, I mean, just keep... Honestly, as far as, like, advice I want to give to this player, if I just take this post at face value, what I will point out is, first of all, they're doing the right thing. If they don't want to be in chat, they don't have to be in chat. That's fine. He's level 25 Prestige 4. He's doing something right. He said he's level 25 Prestige 4 on all classes, by the way, and just now is talking about Toxicity and Absolute. It seems like, to me, they're running into players who are joining Absolute, but, like, they just started playing Absolute. Effectively, what I'm trying to say is they're running into players who aren't very confident in Absolute, so they are edgy, and, yeah, they might be newly Absolute ready players. Maybe they're not Absolute ready, but for the most part, it does feel like he's running into some Absolute noobs, and that is unfortunate. So maybe there's like a wave of new players jumping into Absolute, just how we saw like a wave of new players playing without team perks, that sort of situation. But what's funny about this post is he's not really complaining about people not having team perks. He's complaining about people being toxic in Absolute. So I would like to relay the question to you guys, if you have seen more toxicity in Absolute or in other difficulties. But yeah, let's go to the comments. Let's see how people feel about this. I only play Absolute and have honestly never seen this. Explosive barrels cannot kill teammates to begin with. There is zero friendly fire on this game. Well, there's not zero. There's not zero. Could you imagine somebody in Absolute holding onto grenades just to throw them and stagger their teammates? Like, that's all they do. That's all they do. They pick up grenades and they make sure they can stagger their teammates, and yeah, that's their game plan. I would call that pretty toxic. That would be insane, by the way. That is actual heresy. I haven't heard a single player talk for months. Every now and then, but sometimes people just want to, you know, let me know that they watch my videos, which is cool. But yeah, as far as like strategies, it depends. I think pinging, honestly, just making sure you allocate resources correctly does a wonder for communication. All you have to do is ping, hey, pick up that stim. They pick up the stim. Everyone has stims. Who needs to say anything at that point? But yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're just good with pinging and if you're good with locating resources, you don't really need to communicate that much. But yeah, it's always nice to see people, like, you know, talk over chat, regardless of what they want to say. So sometimes it's funny for them to meme or something. But yeah, sometimes people will say, hey, what's up? And hey, you know what? What's up? So yeah, I mean, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, there's not like, for this game, it doesn't feel like you need, like, I don't know, Battle Royale tier communication. Not once have I been not picked up unless the area is too dangerous. Mainly with the Terminus Extremis Major still around. Yeah, this person said he wasn't getting picked up. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if you're able to actually confirm that the players are being toxic. They potentially just can't do it. You know what I mean? But as far as people mouthing off over voice lines, that's definitely something that you can confirm they're being toxic about. But yeah, that's not getting picked up is questionable, I think. Haven't been kicked in months. Yeah, again, I feel like this is situational. I have been kicked recently. As far as like, that was the most recent kick I've had throughout the entire launch time. Like, I've only ever been kicked maybe another time, and that was like closer to launch, I guess. I don't know, to be completely honest. I do remember my last time getting kicked because of how unnecessary it was. I'm actually surprised most matches are so chill. People rarely, if ever, taking stims when not needed. Well, I've seen a lot of... I've seen more of that recently. Not a lot of it, but more of it. Not blasting off when I do something stupid, like, yeah, taking myself out with a crack. Yeah, been there. Literally been there recently. Been there yesterday. We're gonna take a look at that. Not getting mad at accidentally staggering them with a nade or killing an executionable enemy by mistake due to being zoomed in. Dude, yeah, no, recently, actually, as far as communication goes, there was a point where I accidentally did a grapple. I accidentally grappled an extremist that my teammate was about to execute to get their armor back, and as soon as I accidentally did it, I knew the mistake. So yeah, I went over chat and said, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm still getting better with Vanguard. I need to, identify those moments better. And he was like, yeah, it's all good. The dude went down because of me, and he does not care. He does not care. Like, I thought that was pretty funny. Like, I did end up picking him up, but he did end up getting a mortal wound, but got some stims and ended up healing it, which is nice. But yeah, it was kind of funny, like, seeing people talk about, like, toxic teammates and everything. But in my situation, I stole someone's execution, and they were just like, it is what it is. Which is great. I love to see that. This is an account for me being on PC and text chat also being available. I mean, yeah, again, it's definitely situational. The person who made this post definitely seemed to like run into every toxic player in Absolute or something. Or they just stayed in the same lobby and just kept playing with the same toxic players. Man, why is everyone in Absolute so toxic? No, but seriously though, I do think they probably ran into at least a couple toxic players. Honestly though, the way they were saying they should just jump back into lethal, they should continue playing Absolute. They're Prestige 4, level 25. You are definitely like an Absolute player. You know what I mean? So going into lethal might not be as fun. Playing Absolute is where you belong, I think. That has not been my observation. For whatever reason, in my experience, Ruthless seems to be the obnoxious sweat spot for Space Marine 2. I've played a ton of Absolute and have yet to have a negative experience with another player. I mean, yeah, I could kind of confirm that, like, I've had worse experiences on lower difficulties. I think Ruthless is still kind of like a high difficulty. Ruthless, I don't know, Lethal's been feeling pretty easy to me recently, but I've been playing a lot of Siege mode. I've been playing a lot of hard Siege mode. I've done true solo runs and stuff like that, so I'm not surprised that pre-Patch 9 Lethal felt a little bit more difficult than post-Patch 9 Lethal. Yeah, we are playing a lot more difficult situations. So, I think this is kind of an interesting perspective that you actually see. To me, it kind of tracks, because it's like, okay, you're queuing up with players who aren't totally experienced, they're only somewhat experienced, and perhaps there's things that they're just misunderstanding and then getting toxic over it for no reason. So, I don't know. Dude, honestly, I used to get really tilted in this game. Sometimes, I mean, I still do every now and then, but nowadays, I'm definitely kind of just able to shake it off, and I'm like, you know what? I'll beat this entire mission with 25% health. I don't care. like, there's a point. I feel like there's a tilting point where it's like, you know, those moments in like playing Dark Souls games or whatever where you're fighting a boss and it starts off really poorly, and then you're just like, you know what? I'm not even going to use another heal for the rest of this fight because of how poorly it's doing. But like somehow you actually start to like manage. It's like you kind of lock in. It's like it pisses you off to the point where you lock in, at least for me. So I don't know. That's neither here or there as far as the toxicity conversation, but to me, it's kind of funny seeing players get tilted in Ruthless, where it's like, brother, you haven't even tasted the harsh tilt of this game. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. My case is that my two teammates that were under-leveled got killed by one Lictor, while I killed the other Lictor and a Ravener by myself. They lost Gene Seed and left immediately. Okay, I mean, they're rage quitting. That's unfortunate. I don't really put that underneath the toxicity, umbrella. That's kind of just players rage quitting. Proceeded to tell me it was my fault it was lost because I wasn't right there next to them, as if I was just having a stroll through the operation. I was literally around the corner. I ran into them again. Turns out they weren't even Prestige yet, running Absolute. Sheesh, man. All right, I'll give that one to you. So I feel like we found the solution, or at least we found the cause. The cause is people joining Absolute who just aren't ready for it, man. I can see players getting toxic in that situation. It's like you jump into Absolute, you see an Extrema spawn, it's like 3 Raveners or whatever. You expect your teammate to kind of, start to gather, but like sometimes you're playing with players who are like, you know what, I can 2v1 these Raveners, I don't care. So you're not really prepared for that mentality. You think they're just kind of messing around, but in reality, they're 2v1ing extremists, and then you're getting no diffed by one extremist that you weren't ready for because you haven't fought any. So it's like, so then yeah, I imagine you can be like a little bit mad at it because you're not willing to take accountability for the fact that you jumped into a harder difficulty that you were ready for. Dude, like, honestly, when it comes to getting good with this game, I don't know why people try to rush it so fast. Like, dude, even if you get to level 25 as quick as possible, you're still going to get carried through this game. You don't have enough experience. You still need to jump in Absolute and actually hold your own, and not just jump in Absolute level 7 and expect to get carried. That's, yeah, you're not going to get better that way. Ultimately, I think if you really want to get better at this game, just jumping into Siege mode in general, it will definitely give you a nice head start. There's no reason you need to jump into Absolute and, yeah, ruin those games. Not to mention get mad for dying. That's unfortunate. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Do you see more toxicity in Absolute? Do you see more toxicity in Ruthless or Lethal? Or have you ran into any toxic situations at all recently? Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.